Well, you've gathered that John was a very wise man, from being a trainer for driving on the ice to training seeing eye dogs in a split second, to being a romantic counselor. I didn't know that, I have to confess that, and being an extreme traveler and an international witnesser. But the word is very specific that John, indeed, in the Lord's eyes, was a wise man. Proverbs 11:30, and I want to read it so I get it correctly. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise. And I think there's no doubt that John has certainly done some of that, and my role today is to talk a little bit about John's involvement with the Gideons International. You can see in front of you here a typical hotel-motel Bible display when we dedicate a hotel or a motel. You will see as you leave going down this hallway here a stack of testaments like this with a note card in there. I'll talk about this note card in a minute. And some memorial Bible cards, what we affectionately refer to in our organization as memorial Bible cards, an opportunity to send Bibles in memory of someone. Today, John, but take one with you because more than one, as many as you need. The opportunity may present itself to do just that. You know, we had occasion in our local Gideon group for John to be our chaplain for a while, and John was very passionate, as has been mentioned by a number of folks, about witnessing and never passing up the opportunity to witness. And these are little small testaments that you might see within our organization. These are ones that we purchase ourselves, and so John would purchase some of these on his own and bring them to us and have this little note card in there, and he would say to us on Saturday morning, and he would do this once a month. He wouldn't let us off the hook with just one. Once a month he would come in and say, I want you to present this to someone. You give somebody something that you don't really want. I want you to present this testament to someone this week. I want you to write their name on this card that's inside, and we're going to pray for that person for 30 days. And we did that time after time after time as John served as our chaplain. But we had some other fun times, as you can imagine, if you heard already. You didn't go anywhere with John without having a little bit of fun. John and I went to an international scripture blitz in El Paso, and from time to time we do these kinds of things. A group of us will come together, and in this case about 95 or 100 of us, and we'll work a metropolitan area over 2 or 3 days and get the hotels and motels up to date, work schools, colleges, that sort of thing. John and I drove together out there. We were on separate teams for a couple of days. The last day we worked the UTEP campus. It was a day that, even though it was in March, it snowed, and neither one of us took a coat. It was a challenging morning, I'll say that. If it hadn't been for the guy who brought coffee by a little bit, I think we probably would have frozen. John had a lot of fun there, and we had a lot of opportunities to witness to people. As we're coming home, we did one last community college on the way out of home, and then we hit the road, and both of us felt like we had things that we really needed to get done, and so we were hurrying on our way back. And as you know, on that highway, when you come across, at least I know now, you may not know, you can use this for your reference. When you come through the Guadalupe National Park, the speed limit drops somewhat. And didn't make much difference to us because we were in a hurry and there was nobody there, but there was one individual who was very concerned about our speed. So as we got stopped and we were discussing to him, what were you doing? And this man, the DPS officer, notices all these Bibles laying around the back. So he kind of got curious about what it was we were doing. And we discussed, finally we assured him that we just really weren't paying attention, and he could see that we weren't paying attention. Get ready to leave, but the guy wasn't through yet. John reaches in the back, pulls out a testament, and we're there another 5 minutes, John witnessing this Department of Public Safety officer. So very interesting. You know, and I have a note here about John being a prayer warrior. As I mentioned, he was our camp chaplain. And one thing you ever noticed, if you ever had opportunity to pray with John, and we have all had opportunities to pray with people at various and sundry stages and points in our life, John was one of those people who had a conversation with God. He was there, and they truly had a conversation with each other, and it was very, very rewarding. We had, just like these other folks have mentioned, the opportunities to pray with each other about various and sundry needs in our lives. So very, very interesting. I would finally, one thing I wanted to leave you with is, as was mentioned, John came to us, from the Gideons at least, from Colorado, and while he was in Colorado, he was served on what we refer to as our state cabinet, which is a board of directors. We just happen to have some unusual terminology like some folks have. And I wrote a friend of ours, mutual friend of John's and mine this week, about his going on to be with the Lord. And this man is now responsible for a 5-state area across the Southwest. Name's Alan. But Alan and John were on the Colorado state cabinet together a number of years ago. Alan was the state president, and John was what was called the state new member coordinator. So I want to read this note here that Alan sent me this week. When John was state new member coordinator, he decided that Alma would fly us to a new member plan dinner meeting in Trinidad about 3 hours away. That's a recruitment dinner for us. Sorry, I should have read. John didn't like to fly, and we were going in a little 4-seat airplane. Before we even got off the ground, he handed me a couple of pills and commanded, "Take these. No water, just take them and swallow." So I did what I was told. Takeoff was a little rough and very windy. The plane took off sideways on the runway, which was a first for me. The flight wasn't much better. I remember hanging on to anything I could grab onto in the plane and then realizing how stupid that was because the whole plane was going to go down with me anyway. We got to Trinidad, and John and Alma chained the plane down the runway, I guess so it wouldn't blow away during the meeting. He turned and asked me what I thought of the flight, and I said, "Well, it was a little bumpy." "A little bumpy," he said. "That was horrible. I'll walk home before I get on that airplane." And I began to think about how is it we're going to get home anyway. But anyway, we had a successful dinner meeting and headed back to the airport, and the plane was still there, and I thought, oh, great. The wind died down. They unchained the plane. We took off, this time me sitting in the front seat, John tucked in the back seat, and it was a beautiful, comfortable ride home. And Alan closes by saying, "I know John had some bumpy rides through cancer, but I know that he had a beautiful, comfortable ride home."